The sun hung low in the sky, painting the endless plains in shades of orange and gold. The wind whispered softly through the tall grass, carrying the faint scent of earth and wildflowers. A native woman, her hair tangled and her clothes dusty from days of travel, struggled along a narrow dirt path. Her feet were sore, and her legs trembled with exhaustion. Every step felt heavier than the last. She paused for a moment, pressing her hand against a nearby tree for support. Her chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath. "I can't walk any further," she whispered to herself, a tear escaping down her dusty cheek. She had been traveling alone for days, moving from village to village, searching for a safe place to rest. But the land was vast and lonely, and her strength was fading. As she leaned against the tree, she looked around. The horizon stretched endlessly in every direction, with no sign of shelter, no sign of another human being. Only the soft rustle of the grass and the distant cry of a hawk filled the air. Her heart sank. She knew the dangers of traveling alone: wild animals, harsh weather, and the possibility of getting lost forever. Suddenly, a movement caught her eye. A figure appeared in the distance, moving slowly across the golden plains. At first, she thought it might be a mirage, a trick of her tired mind. But as the figure came closer, she could see that it was a man on horseback. His clothes were simple but sturdy, a cowboy hat shading his face from the sun. He carried himself with calm confidence, and his eyes scanned the land as if he knew it like the back of his hand. The woman hesitated. She had been warned to be careful around strangers. Her village elders had always told her that not everyone could be trusted. But her body ached, her mouth was dry, and her hope was fading. She had no choice. With a shaky voice, she called out, "Please, I need help. I'm lost, and I can't walk any further." The cowboy slowed his horse when he heard her plea. He tipped his hat slightly and smiled gently. "It's all right," he said. "I can help you. Come closer." The woman's heart pounded. She wanted to run, to hide, but her feet refused to move. The cowboy dismounted and walked toward her slowly, keeping his hands visible. His calm presence made her feel safer than she had in days. When he reached her, he knelt down to meet her gaze. "Are you hurt?" he asked kindly. "I'm just very tired," she admitted, her voice quivering. "I don't know where I am, and I can't find my way." The cowboy nodded, understanding in his eyes. "You've come a long way," he said softly. "You need rest, food, and water. I have a home nearby. You can come with me." The woman looked at him cautiously. She didn't know this man, and yet something in his tone, in his eyes, made her believe that he meant no harm. After a long pause, she nodded slightly, unable to speak. She took a deep breath, trying to gather what little strength she had left, and followed him across the plains. The cowboy led her along a winding path, the golden grass brushing against their legs. The sun dipped lower, and shadows grew longer, but he moved at a steady pace, making sure she could keep up. Every now and then, he offered her sips of water from a small canteen he carried. The water was cool and sweet, and it revived her spirits just a little as they walked. The woman tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. She wanted to tell him about her journey, about the village she had left behind. But the memories were too heavy, too painful. The cowboy didn't press her. He simply kept walking beside her, a silent companion in the vast, quiet land. After some time, the cowboy pointed ahead. "There it is," he said. "My home is just beyond that ridge. You can rest there." The woman looked up, and for the first time in days, hope flickered in her chest. In the distance, a small wooden cabin appeared, smoke curling from its chimney. It was modest, but it promised warmth and safety. Her legs trembled with relief as they approached the cabin. The cowboy opened the door and gestured for her to enter. "Come in, you can rest now," he said. Inside, the cabin smelled of wood smoke and baked bread. A small fire crackled in the fireplace, casting a warm glow across the room. The woman sank onto a chair, feeling the weight of her exhaustion press down on her. The cowboy handed her a bowl of warm soup. "Eat slowly," he said. "You need your strength back." She looked at him, gratitude shining in her tired eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. I don't know what I would have done without your help, he smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You don't have to thank me, he said. Everyone deserves a safe place to rest. For the first time in days, the woman felt a sense of peace. She realized that, even in a world that sometimes seemed harsh and unforgiving, kindness could still be found. She sipped the soup slowly, letting the warmth fill her body and chase away the cold of exhaustion. Outside, the wind continued to whisper through the grass, and the sun finally disappeared below the horizon. But inside the small cabin, the woman felt a spark of hope, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, she would find her way again. And as she looked at the cowboy, she knew that this encounter, this simple act of kindness, would stay with her forever. The small cabin was quiet now, except for the soft crackling of the fire in the hearth. The woman sat on a wooden chair, her hands wrapped around the warm bowl of soup the cowboy had given her. She took small, careful sips, letting the warmth flow through her body. Each spoonful gave her a little more strength, though her legs still ached and her feet throbbed. The cowboy moved around the cabin with a calm purpose, tending to simple tasks. He refilled the water jug, arranged some dry wood near the fireplace, and checked the small garden outside through the window. He worked quietly, giving the woman space, but she could feel his presence. Steady and reassuring. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The woman wanted to ask him questions about who he was, where he lived, and why he had stopped to help her. But something held her back. Years of caution and worry had taught her that trust was not easily given. And yet something about this man felt different. There was no rush, no harsh tone in his voice, only quiet patience. Finally, the cowboy spoke. You've been traveling far, he said gently. Your feet must be sore, and your heart must be heavy. The woman looked up at him, her eyes tired but curious. Yes, she said softly. I don't know where to go. I left my village to find safety, but everything feels so big and empty out there. The cowboy nodded, listening carefully. I understand, he said. Sometimes the world can feel very big, and the paths we take are not always easy. But rest here tonight. Tomorrow, you can decide where to go. The woman hesitated. She had spent so long on her own that the idea of staying in someone else's home made her uneasy. But the thought of walking again, of facing the cold night and the uncertain trail, was even more frightening. Slowly, she nodded, letting herself accept the offer as the evening grew darker. The fire in the hearth cast warm, dancing shadows across the room. The cowboy brought over a blanket and placed it gently on a nearby chair. You can use this, he said. It will help you rest. The woman wrapped the blanket around her shoulders and felt a small comfort she had not known in days. She realized how tired she truly was, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to relax. They sat together in silence for a while, listening to the fire and the soft rustling of the wind outside. Slowly the woman began to speak, telling small pieces of her story. She spoke of her village, of her family, and of the journey that had brought her to this point. The words came haltingly at first, but as she continued, her voice grew stronger. The cowboy did not interrupt. He did not ask questions that might have made her feel pressured. He simply listened, nodding occasionally, his eyes filled with understanding. His calm presence encouraged her to continue, to share what she could. Hours passed, and the night grew deep. Outside, the stars began to twinkle in the clear sky, painting a quiet, peaceful picture above the plains. The woman realized that she had not looked at the stars in so long, not without worry or fear. Tonight, she could look at them and feel a little hope. The cowboy stood and walked to the window. It's a clear night, he said softly. Tomorrow, we can plan your journey. But for now, rest. You've earned it. The woman nodded, feeling a mix of relief and gratitude. She looked at him, wanting to express something more, but words failed her. Instead, she simply closed her eyes. Letting the warmth of the fire and the safety of the cabin surround her, sleep came slowly at first. Her mind was filled with memories of the journey, of the long, empty roads, and of moments when she had wondered if she would ever find help. But as the night deepened, The sound of the fire and the quiet presence of the cowboy allowed her to drift into a peaceful rest. The cowboy remained awake for a while longer. Sitting near the fire, he thought about the woman who had appeared on the trail, exhausted and alone. He had seen many travelers in his life, some in need of help, some lost in their own ways. But there was something about this woman that touched him. Not just her struggle, but her courage. To keep going despite fear, to continue moving even when every step hurt. He smiled softly to himself. The world was full of hardships, he knew, but small acts of kindness could make a big difference. Offering someone shelter, food, and a listening ear could give hope where it seemed lost. And tonight, he had done just that. When the woman awoke the next morning, the sunlight streamed through the cabin window, bathing the room in a gentle glow. She felt refreshed, her body still tired, but her spirit lighter. The warmth of the fire had stayed through the night, and the cowboy had already prepared a simple breakfast: bread, fruit, and more water. "Good morning," he said with a smile. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes," she replied softly. "Better than I have in days." "Thank you." "You're welcome," he said. "Take your time eating. No need to rush." As she ate slowly, she noticed the quiet care the cowboy had put into everything. The cabin was simple, yet tidy. The fire was warm, the food nourishing, and the water clean and fresh. For the first time in many days, she felt a sense of safety she had almost forgotten existed. After breakfast, the cowboy led her outside to show her the surrounding land. The plains stretched endlessly, dotted with patches of wildflowers and tall grasses. Birds flew across the sky, their songs filling the air. The woman breathed in deeply, feeling the crisp morning air fill her lungs. She realized that even in the vast emptiness of the plains, there was beauty and life. "You can stay as long as you need," the cowboy said. "But I know your journey is important. When you're ready, you can continue." The woman looked at him, her heart full of gratitude. "I will remember this," she said softly. "Not just your help, but your kindness. I will not forget it." The cowboy nodded. "Kindness is something we can all share," he said. "It doesn't take much, but it can mean the world to someone who needs it." For a long moment they stood in silence, looking at the horizon together. The woman felt a quiet strength return to her. She knew the road ahead would still be hard, but she also knew that there were people in the world willing to help, willing to offer shelter and hope. That morning marked a turning point for her. She realized that trust could be given carefully, and that accepting help did not make her weak. Sometimes it was the courage to let someone in that showed the greatest strength. As the sun rose higher, she prepared herself for the journey ahead. She thanked the cowboy again, and he gave her a small bundle of supplies for the road: some bread, water, and a few other essentials. "Take care of yourself," he said. "And remember, even in the hardest times, there is kindness out there." The woman nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the morning sun on her face, and began to walk again. But this time, she carried with her not just the supplies, but a memory of compassion that would guide her forward. The morning air was fresh and cool as the woman stepped outside the small cabin, the sun rising slowly over the endless plains. The cowboy stood nearby, watching her, his eyes calm and steady. The bundle of supplies he had given her felt heavier than she expected, but it was also a reminder of the kindness she had received the night before. She adjusted it on her shoulder, ready to continue her journey. "Are you sure you're ready?" the cowboy asked gently. I think so," she replied, her voice soft but firm. "But before I leave, I want to rest a little more here. You're home, it feels safe, and I need that." The cowboy nodded. "Of course. Stay as long as you need. There is no rush." She followed him back inside, the warmth of the cabin immediately embracing her. The fire still glowed softly, and the smell of the morning air mixed with the faint scent of baked bread. She sat down, feeling the comfort of the familiar surroundings. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The woman looked around the cabin, noticing the small details she had not before. The cowboy had kept it neat and orderly, with simple tools and furniture arranged carefully. There were small jars of dried herbs on the shelves, a few books stacked neatly in the corner, and a wooden table that seemed to have seen years of use. The cowboy broke the silence. "Would you like some tea? It will help you feel stronger." "Yes, please," she replied. Grateful for the offer, he moved around the cabin with quiet efficiency, pouring hot water into a clay cup and adding a few dried leaves from a small jar. The aroma was soothing, and the woman felt her muscles relax as she inhaled the warm scent. He handed the cup to her with a gentle smile. "Thank you," she said, her voice quieter now, almost thoughtful. "Anytime," he replied. "You've come a long way, and anyone in your situation deserves a place to rest." For a while, they simply drank in silence, each listening to the faint sound of the wind outside and the fire crackling softly. But soon, the woman felt a desire to speak. She had been holding so many thoughts inside during her journey, and the quiet patience of the cowboy made her feel safe enough to open her heart. "I left my village to find safety," she began cautiously. "There were problems there, things I could not fix, people I could not help. I thought I could travel, find a better place, maybe even start over. But the journey has been harder than I expected." The cowboy nodded, encouraging her to continue. "I walked for days alone," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Sometimes I thought I would never find anyone to help me. The nights were cold and the roads were empty. I was afraid, so afraid." He listened carefully, without interruption, without judgment. His presence was steady, as if he were holding space for her story to unfold. "But when I saw you on the trail yesterday," she continued, "something changed. I don't know why, but I felt hope. You gave me a place to rest, food to eat, and a kind word. I've never met anyone like that before." The cowboy's expression softened. "Kindness is simple," he said. "It doesn't take much, but it can mean a lot. You were brave to keep moving, even when it was difficult. You should be proud of that." She looked at him, surprised. No one had ever praised her courage before. Most people only noticed mistakes or weaknesses. She felt warmth in her chest, a sense of validation she had longed for during her lonely journey. "I didn't think I was brave," she admitted. "I just wanted to survive." "Survival takes courage," he replied quietly, "and recognizing your own strength is part of that courage. You've shown it by continuing your journey, by trusting me enough to accept help, and by facing each day despite fear." The woman felt tears prick her eyes. She had carried so much pain and doubt with her, and in this small cabin, sitting with a stranger who treated her with respect and understanding, some of that weight began to lift. For a moment, the only sounds were the fire and the wind outside. Then the cowboy spoke again, his voice gentle. "Tell me about your village. I want to understand who you are and where you come from." She hesitated at first, unsure how much to share, but something in his calm gaze encouraged her to speak. "It's a small place," she began. "Families live close together, and everyone knows everyone else. I loved it once. But there were conflicts, misunderstandings, things I could not change. I left because I needed to find safety, not just for myself, but for the people I care about." The cowboy nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes leaving is the only way to protect yourself and the ones you love. It doesn't mean you are abandoning them. It means you are making a difficult choice to survive and grow." The woman looked down at her hands, thinking about the journey ahead. She had walked so far, carried so much fear, and faced countless unknowns. And yet here she was, alive, with someone who had offered her shelter and respect. The experience was changing her, little by little, teaching her that the world was not entirely harsh, that trust could be rebuilt, and that courage could exist in quiet moments of honesty and connection. "You've given me more than shelter," she said softly, meeting his eyes. "You've shown me that kindness still exists, even when I thought it was gone." The cowboy smiled. "And you've reminded me why it matters," he said. "Every act of kindness matters. Sometimes it changes a person's life more than we realize." They sat together for the rest of the morning, talking quietly, sharing stories of the land of life, and of small lessons learned along the way. The woman told him about her hopes for the future, simple dreams of finding a safe place to live and people she could trust. The cowboy shared stories of the plains, of the seasons, and the animals, and of the importance of helping others when possible. By the time the sun was high in the sky, the woman felt stronger, not just in body, but in spirit. She realized that the journey ahead would still be long and challenging, but she now had a sense of confidence she had not felt before. The cabin, the fire, the warm food, the gentle conversation had restored her energy and given her hope. When it was time to rest again, she lay down near the fire, feeling a sense of peace. She thought about the journey, the struggles she had faced, and the kindness of the cowboy who had opened his home to her. She realized that sometimes help comes in the form of simple gestures, a cup of tea, a warm fire, a listening ear, and that those gestures could change the course of a life. Outside, the wind continued to move through the grass, carrying the quiet sounds of the plains. But inside, the woman felt safe and understood. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the cabin and the presence of the cowboy fill her heart. She knew that when she left, she would carry with her not just supplies for the road, but the memory of a moment of true kindness, a reminder that even in the hardest times, there is always hope, and that connection and trust could be found in the most unexpected places. The sun was just beginning to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky with shades of gold and orange. The woman stood near the small cabin, her bundle of supplies ready, her heart full of gratitude and quiet determination. She had spent several days recovering in the cowboy's home, and each day had strengthened her body, mind, and spirit. She now felt ready to continue her journey. The cowboy was outside, tending to a small patch of garden. The plants swayed gently in the evening breeze, their green leaves glistening in the fading sunlight. He turned when he saw her approaching, smiling softly. "You're leaving soon," he said gently. "Are you ready?" The woman nodded, though a small part of her felt nervous. Leaving the safety of the cabin, the warmth of the fire, and the quiet presence of the cowboy was harder than she expected. But she also knew that staying would not help her move forward. She needed to face the trail again to find her path, and to continue her journey toward safety and hope. "I think so," she said, her voice steady. "I feel stronger now, thanks to you. I will never forget your kindness." "You don't need to remember me," the cowboy replied, his tone gentle. "Remember the kindness itself. That's what matters. Carry it with you and share it when you can. That is how the world becomes better, step by step." The woman smiled softly. She had never heard anyone speak so simply yet so meaningfully. The words settled in her mind like seeds planted carefully, and she felt a new sense of purpose grow within her. Before she left, the cowboy handed her a small leather pouch. "This is for your journey," he said. "It contains some dried fruits, a little bread, and a few essentials. It's not much, but it will help when the trail gets difficult." The woman accepted it with gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly. "I will use it wisely." They walked together to the edge of the cabin's property, where the plains stretched endlessly before them. The wind moved through the tall grasses, and the sky was painted in soft hues of evening. The woman took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs, and looked toward the horizon. "I will miss this place," she admitted. "It feels safe, like a home." The cowboy smiled, his eyes kind. "It will always be here," he said, "and so will the memory of this place and of the time you spent here. You can carry it with you wherever you go." For a long moment, neither spoke. The woman felt a mix of emotions, gratitude, sadness, and hope. She had found comfort here, but the trail still awaited her, calling her to continue. She realized that leaving was not the end, but a new beginning. Finally, she turned to the cowboy. "I want to thank you again," she said, "for your help, your patience, and your kindness. I've learned so much from you in just a few days." The cowboy nodded. "You've learned more from yourself," he replied. "You've learned that you are stronger than you realized, that courage exists even in quiet moments, and that trust can be rebuilt one step at a time. That is the most important lesson of all." The woman felt a warm feeling in her chest. She had spent so long doubting herself, fearing the unknown, and carrying the weight of loneliness. But here, in this quiet cabin, she had discovered her own strength and resilience. She realized that the journey ahead would still be challenging, but she now had the confidence to face it. As the sun sank lower, painting the sky in deeper shades of orange and purple, the woman hugged the cowboy briefly. The gesture was simple, but full of gratitude and respect. "Goodbye," she said softly. "Goodbye," he replied. "May the trail be kind to you, and may you find safety and peace along the way." She turned and began walking, each step feeling lighter than it had in days. The plains stretched endlessly before her, but she no longer felt fear. She carried with her the warmth of the cabin, the kindness of the cowboy, and the lessons she had learned. Each step became a symbol of her strength, each breath a reminder of hope. As she walked, she thought about the days ahead. She knew there would be challenges, moments of doubt, and times when the journey would feel too long. But she also knew that she had the courage to keep moving, to face each obstacle with patience and determination. And she carried with her the knowledge that even in the harshest conditions, kindness and connection could be found. The evening deepened, and the first stars began to twinkle in the sky. The woman paused for a moment, looking up at the vast expanse above her. The stars seemed endless, shining down with quiet encouragement. She thought of the cowboy's words and realized that the journey was not just about reaching a destination, it was about discovering herself along the way. She continued walking until the sky turned dark, the stars guiding her path. The trail was quiet, the world around her filled with the sounds of the night crickets, the rustle of grass, and the distant calls of birds settling in for the evening. She felt a sense of peace, knowing that she was not alone. Even though the cowboy was far behind her, his presence lingered in her heart, reminding her that trust and kindness existed in the world. That night, she found a small clearing near a stream and decided to rest. She used her supplies to prepare a simple meal, feeling the warmth of nourishment fill her body. As she ate, she thought about the journey so far, the struggles, the moments of fear, and the kindness that had changed her path. She realized that every step, every challenge, and every act of compassion had led her to this moment of strength, lying down under the stars. She felt a new sense of determination. She would continue her journey, not just to find safety, but to honor the lessons she had learned. She would face each day with courage, trust in herself, and openness to the kindness of others. And she would remember the cowboy who had shown her that even in a vast and lonely world, one person could make a difference. As sleep came, she felt a quiet gratitude fill her heart. The journey ahead was still long, but she no longer feared it. She had discovered her own strength, learned the value of trust, and experienced the power of kindness. And with that knowledge, she knew that she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The night was calm, stars bright, and the plains quiet. The woman slept peacefully, her heart and mind ready for the next day of her journey. She had left the cabin, but she carried its warmth with her on, invisible guide, lighting her way through the unknown and in the quiet of the night. Under the vast sky, she dreamed not just of safety, but of a future filled with hope, courage, and the promise of new beginnings. The first light of morning broke over the plains, painting the horizon with soft pinks and yellows. The woman stood and stretched, feeling the crisp morning air fill her lungs. The night under the stars had been peaceful, and for the first time in many days, she felt rested and ready to continue her journey. She looked at the trail ahead. The path was long and winding, disappearing into the distant hills. She knew that the journey would not be easy, but she carried with her the strength and lessons she had learned from the cowboy. She adjusted her bundle and set off, walking steadily, her steps filled with quiet determination as she moved forward. She remembered the words he had spoken. Kindness matters. Courage exists in quiet moments. Trust yourself. Each step felt lighter because she had internalized those words. She no longer walked simply to survive. She walked with hope, with purpose, and with the courage to face the unknown. The trail led her through fields of tall grass, where the wind whispered around her. Birds sang from the trees, and the world seemed alive with small signs of life and beauty. She paused for a moment to watch a family of deer crossing the path ahead. Their graceful movements reminded her that life continued, even in difficult circumstances. And that beauty could be found in the smallest moments. She continued walking, and soon the trail led to a small stream. The water flowed gently over smooth stones, sparkling in the sunlight. She knelt beside it, cupping her hands to drink. The cold water refreshed her, and she felt her energy return. While drinking, she noticed footprints along the edge of the stream, signs that other travelers had passed this way. She smiled to herself. Even in isolation, she was part of a larger world. Others had faced challenges and moved forward just as she was now. Her journey was not without difficulty. At one point, the trail became rocky, and she stumbled over uneven ground. Her muscles ached, and her feet were sore. But she reminded herself of the cowboy's encouragement. "You are stronger than you realize." She took a deep breath, steadied herself, and continued. Each obstacle became a test of her determination, and with each step her confidence grew as the sun rose higher. She reached a small village in the distance. Smoke rose from chimneys, and she could hear the faint sounds of people beginning their day. Her heart lifted at the sight. Perhaps this village could offer her safety, a place to rest, and maybe even new friends. She approached cautiously, mindful of the lessons she had learned about trust and observation. In the village, she was greeted by friendly faces. People smiled, offering nods of welcome as she walked through the streets. She found a small inn where she could rest and share her story. The innkeeper, a kind, elderly woman, listened carefully as the traveler spoke about her journey, the hardships she had faced, and the moments of kindness that had guided her along the way. "You have been brave," the innkeeper said, placing a gentle hand on the woman's shoulder. "Not everyone has the courage to travel alone and face the unknown. You should be proud of yourself." The woman felt warmth in her heart. These words echoed what the cowboy had told her. She realized that courage was not only in surviving, but in continuing to trust, continue to hope, and continue to move forward despite fear. During her stay, she shared meals with the villagers, listened to their stories, and even helped with small chores. The work was simple, but it allowed her to feel useful, to connect, and to build trust in her new surroundings. Each interaction, no matter how small, reminded her of the value of kindness and the importance of human connection. One afternoon, she walked outside the village, feeling the sun on her face and the wind in her hair. She thought about the cowboy, about his cabin, the fire, and the lessons he had taught her. She realized that his kindness had set the foundation for everything she was experiencing now. Without that moment of shelter and understanding, she might never have found the courage to reach this village or to begin trusting again. The woman found a quiet spot on a small hill overlooking the village. She sat down and allowed herself a few moments of reflection. She thought about the journey, the long, lonely nights, the fear of the unknown, and the small but powerful gestures of care she had received along the way. Each memory reminded her that even the smallest act of kindness could change the course of a life. As evening approached, she returned to the village carrying a basket of food she had collected from the nearby forest. She shared it with the villagers, smiling as they accepted her gift. She realized that she had come full circle, from someone who had received kindness to someone who could now offer it in return. The act filled her heart with satisfaction and purpose. Night fell, and the village quieted. The woman stood outside, looking at the stars above, just as she had during her first night on the trail. She felt a deep sense of peace. Her journey had been long and difficult, but she had grown stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. She had discovered that courage was not only about facing physical challenges, but also about opening one's heart, trusting others, and believing in oneself. As she prepared for sleep in the small inn, she made a quiet promise to herself. She would continue her journey, exploring new paths, helping those she could, and living with the courage and kindness that had been shown to her. She knew that life would still bring challenges, but she no longer feared them. She had the tools to face them: strength, hope, and the memory of kindness. The woman drifted to sleep with a heart full of gratitude and eyes bright with hope. She understood that her journey was not just about reaching a destination, but about the growth, learning, and connections she had experienced along the way. She had faced fear, embraced trust, and discovered the power of human kindness, and these lessons would guide her for the rest of her life. And so, under the quiet glow of the stars and the watchful sky, the woman's journey continued. She moved forward with courage, compassion, and hope, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Her story, once filled with fear and uncertainty, had transformed into one of strength, trust, and the enduring power of kindness. The plains stretched beyond the village, endless and open. The woman's footsteps left marks in the soft earth, each one a symbol of her journey, her growth, and her determination. She had walked through hardship and found strength, through loneliness and found hope, and through fear and found courage. The night was calm, and the stars shone brightly, as if to remind her that no journey is ever truly alone. She had learned that the world could be harsh, but it could also be gentle, welcoming, and full of kindness. And with that knowledge, she moved forward, ready for whatever adventure lay ahead, carrying with her the lessons, memories, and courage that would forever guide her path.